It is just before midnight on the West Coast and just before 3 a.m. on the East Coast. And we are live on YouTube, Rumble, X, Rockfin, and Instagram and Facebook, maybe if it's working correctly. Even if it is, there's a possibility that Instagram and Facebook will boot the stream very shortly. Nevertheless, we will persist. We'll find out what happens. Let's do this. Escalation Joe. Italy offering safe haven to Trump-fearing libs. And was that media accountability we just saw? This is the Propaganda Report. I am Brad Binkley. Escalation. Let's start there. Top story. More Ukraine war escalation as Volodymyr Zelensky, didn't waste any time firing those ATACMS missiles deep into Russian territory just a few days after Biden finally gave him the A-OK to fire away into Russia. 6 missiles, U.S.-made missiles, were fired at a Russian weapons facility, with 5 of them being shot down by the Russian air defenses. This according to the Russian defense minister. In fact, all of this is according to the Russian defense minister, because when Volodymyr Zelensky was asked about the use of these missiles deep into Russian territory, he would neither confirm nor deny that Ukraine was responsible for said attack. He did emphasize, however, in his answer or non-answer, that Ukraine now, because of Biden's A-OK, they now do in fact have the ability to conduct such an attack. Be straight up with us, Volodymyr. Quit beating around the bush. Oh, I got to go live. We're not live on Instagram because I forgot to say it. I forgot to click go live yet. So many moving parts here. Welcome, anybody on Instagram. I'm sure I'll be getting booted shortly. Back to the story. Is my audio working right now? I think it is. Let's see what we got going on here. Okay. If Ukraine was behind this attack, and it seems like they are, Zelensky would have denied it if he did not want people to think that they were, then it marks the first time that these U.S.-made long-range missiles have been used to strike deep into the heart of Russia. If that escalation wasn't enough for you, Biden given the approval, Ukraine immediately firing them at Russia, there's even more escalation than that over the past couple of days. Where's the other escalation notes? You know, you're looking at your notes and you lose your place for 2 seconds and it's like you can never find it again. So I apologize. Right. So that's what Putin did after that. So on the same day that Ukraine sent those missiles over there, Putin, in response to Biden allowing them to do that, updated the nuclear doctrine that Russia operates on, the red line, if you will, that if crossed, they're willing to use nuclear weapons, or they're willing to consider the attack a Western attack because of the weapons. And here's what the new doctrine that Russia updated did. It broadened the scope of when they can use their nuclear weapons. And under the updated doctrine, Moscow will consider aggression from any non-nuclear state, but with the participation of a nuclear country, a joint attack on Russia. And a Kremlin spokesperson said that the updates mean that the use of Western non-nuclear rockets by the armed forces of Ukraine against Russia can prompt a nuclear response. Are they being serious, or are they just saber rattling, as our media would say? Russian foreign minister yesterday said that Moscow will view launches of the U.S.-made long-range missiles as a new phase of war by the West. It's hard to argue with that. You know, if Russia gave Mexico billions of dollars worth of weapons and said, yeah, go ahead, right into the heart of the U.S. with them, I think we would also consider that an attack, not just by Mexico, but by Russia. It's really not an unreasonable proposition. Even though our media and our government would have us treat what seems reasonable as preposterous. Preposterous. We had nothing to do with this attack other than the fact that we have entirely funded Ukraine's ability to remain in this war. Other than that, nothing. In response to Russia's response to Biden, the escalation, the response to the other escalation, and the response to the next escalation, the Pentagon Deputy Press Secretary, Sabrina Singh, said that the U.S. doesn't have any indications that Russia is preparing to use a nuclear weapon within Ukraine, adding that it's the same irresponsible rhetoric that we have seen before and that we've, frankly, seen for the past 2 years, which is quite a statement about rhetoric coming from a government, ours, who has been pretty prolific the past couple of years when it comes to using irresponsible rhetoric. That's kind of what we specialize in. Nazi, he's a Nazi. I mean, we go all the way there with irresponsible, agitating rhetoric. Aimed domestically, I might add. And that's not it with the escalation. We have a little bit more, too. Because after Biden updated this doctrine, he also decided, after Putin updated the doctrine, Biden then authorized the use of anti-personnel landmines, which are designed to blow up people as opposed to tanks. He authorized Ukraine to use them in order to bolster their defenses against advancing Russian troops and potentially bolster their defenses against random Ukrainians who happen to step their foot down in the wrong place. Not to be outdone, Russia then turned right around and accused the Biden administration of trying to use the president's last few months in power to try and extend the conflict in Ukraine. Preposterous, right? Oh, wait a minute. No, that's actually exactly what it looks like. The spokesperson for the Kremlin said that if we generally look at the trends demonstrated by the outgoing U.S. administration, they're determined to fully prolong the war in Ukraine and are doing all they can do for this time that they have left at their disposal. I didn't say it the way that a Russian translates that Russia said it, but that's what I said the other day. And others have said as well, that Biden appears to be trying to create circumstances that make it impossible for Trump to end the war quickly, as he has promised to do once he gets in office. It is objectively obvious, at least that's what it looks like, that that's what's going on. I wonder if the fact that Russia has now said this thing that I and many others in America said before Russia said it, I wonder if that still means that what we said before Russia is now categorized as Russian disinformation coming from the Kremlin. Because that's how they typically do things. If you say something long before Russia does, all Russia has to do is say it, and then all of a sudden you got it from them, and you're spreading disinformation. I wonder if we're kicked off YouTube and Facebook and Instagram after that yet. I don't know. I don't even know how Instagram works with this. Like I see people get in there, but I don't know how to look at the chats or anything. I'm still learning all this. You have so many platforms, and you try to juggle some of these things. I was just reading the statistics about news influencers, which the media is trying to become now, like Joe Rogan, because it had such an impact on the election. They have such bigger audiences. that now the media wants to become them, which I'll get to in a second. But I was reading about how all these guys are on all these platforms. I'm like, man, I'm only on 4 platforms. All these other people are on like 10 platforms. So I'm trying to up my game up a little bit here, just like the media is trying to do. Just in different ways here. Okay. And to wrap up the escalation, there's a lot of escalation going on, okay? The U.S. Embassy in Kiev, depending on whatever you think the right way of saying it is, temporarily closed its doors yesterday out of an abundance of caution as it warned that a potentially significant airstrike may be coming. The embassy posted on its site, the U.S. Embassy recommends U.S. citizens be prepared to immediately shelter in the event an air alert is announced. It said that it had received specific information about the potential strike that they feared might happen yesterday, which I guess it didn't happen. And the embassy is expected to open back up and return to normal operations tomorrow. So, a lot of fear in the air. I'm not really that afraid of something happening, but, I probably won't be until something does. I got to be honest with you. And I don't know that there's going to be some nuclear attack or something right away, but it does look like the Biden administration is trying to force the issue hardcore. Started with the AOKing the ATACMS deep into Russia. Then you have the landmines. Now you have the shutting the embassy. They seem to be wanting to push Russia past the point of no return so that regardless of what happens when Trump gets in, what's coming next can't be stopped. The aid to Ukraine can't be stopped. Trying to tie Trump's hands, if you will. Now, Russia seems to recognize this as well. And it would appear they have some restraint. I mean, we sanction them. We kick them off the SWIFT global financial network, kick them out of the Olympics, kick them out of the G8, give billions of dollars worth of weapons to the enemy they're fighting, they share a border with. And they haven't done anything else to really. They seem to be restrained. We are powerful. We are further away. I know there's a lot of logistical stuff that I don't know about or don't understand. But I would think that if they too want to avoid further escalation that Biden appears to be trying to create, that they would attempt to be restrained. I don't really know, though. What I do wonder, though, is if they do restrain themselves and do not allow themselves to be pushed past the point of no return with these initial provocations, what else is the Biden administration prepared to do in order to just push it even further until it says, screw it, this is on? Leaving Trump with no other options but to continue giving our tax dollars to Ukraine and the Azov battalion, where there are actual swastika-tattooed Nazis fighting. Not the fake pretend ones that they say Trump and his Jewish family is, but actual Nazis. Using our tax money, getting our weapons to kill people. Something I would like to stop. I would like that to end. I would like to be able to pay for eggs that cost less than $5 and get out of the grocery store for under $175 and then come home and be like, what did I even buy? I feel like I bought nothing. I feel like I just went to the grocery store and said, here's $175. I don't need anything. Like I just give it to them because I'm not a good grocery shopper. Some people can be really efficient at a grocery store. I'm terrible at it. I don't know what I'm doing. Moving on to some domestic news. Let me check the chats here. All right. What's up, guys? Good to see you. Good to see you guys up either late or early. If you guys are on the East Coast and you're popping up at 3 a.m., the crack of dawn, man, you're either a farmer or you're incredibly motivated, and I want to shadow you. Domestic news. We all know MSNBC and all the other networks suck. Fox 2, CNN, all of them, they all suck. They're all propaganda. They're all full of it. They're all there to lie to us. They're all there to try and make us feel like they're not lying to us while lying to us. Nobody likes them anymore. And nobody trusts them anymore. Their power is diminishing. And so now they're embarking on this journey that I've been talking about to win back the trust of the people and thus win back their audiences and their income and their power and their influence and their ability to set the agenda. It's called agenda setting theory. For so long, so many decades, the media has had the agenda setting power, which I think is a social science research that they've talked a lot about agenda setting, but it's really very simple. It's that the media controls the perception and the conversation, what people think is important, what people don't think about. That's a very powerful thing. That is why governments try to control media, because they can make people think about what they want them to think about and in ways they want them to think about. Literally controlling what people believe is true in the world that surrounds them. A lot of power. And they've lost much of it. Because people are going to podcasts, people are going to TikTok, people are going to other platforms that don't lie to them all the time, that don't insult them, that don't treat them like they're stupid, that don't say, hey, it's your fault that my lies on you didn't work. I mean, it's an abusive relationship with these pathological media liars. And that's why trust has been eroded, as Davos has talked about. And the Davos goal, rebuilding trust in the institutions of society to regain that control over the public that the elites admitted that they have lost because they're so distrusted, more so than ever. Clip I play all the time from Davos. And this agenda to rebuild trust. Like I said, it's going to start with saying the elections are definitely fair now because Trump won and there's not a predominant narrative saying that he cheated. Some people are, but the media is kind of like, wow, he won and look, I guess elections do work. No, there's still other problems with elections. Okay, people need to stay alert and the election integrity effort needs to continue. And then we're good as long as that happens. Do not let your guard down if you like Trump and you've been enthusiastic about election integrity. Because if you do, then they will just use those vulnerabilities, which they went to court to make sure to prevent from being fixed, because solutions to fix them were put into place, and then the Democrats sued to make sure that they were taken away again. So they're still there, lying in wait to be used. Your guy won, but make sure you're just as enthusiastic about protecting the elections, because they want you to let your guard down. The other part of this is rebuilding trust in the controlled media, which again, everybody hates them. Like they just, I don't mean personally on an individual level. My 8th grade teacher said something remarkable. The thing that stuck with me more than anything else, very simple. He said, don't hate people, hate what they do. I don't hate people. I hate what some people do. But the media is loathsome in what they do, and I do not like it at all. And so what this media, mainstream media as a whole, what they're all doing, and I said this would happen on election night. I was like, watch the media try to become Joe Rogan-like podcasters. That's what we're going to see, because they think they can become trustworthy by doing so, by trying to look like that. And quickly, like almost immediately after, we had Chris Wallace. Chris Wallace, I'm not going to do CNN anymore because I see how successful Joe Rogan. My Chris Wallace is basically my Jimmy Stewart, okay? I'm not going to do CNN anymore because Joe Rogan is so successful, so I'm going to try streaming. And so after 3 years at CNN, he's leaving, and he's going to be trying to be a 78-year-old podcasting Joe Rogan type person, because that's where they see the influence going. News influencers is what this Pew study that was funded by the Clinton Associated Knight Foundation is branding people like Joe Rogan and other big podcasters that have more influence and bigger audiences than the media. And The mainstream media is already trying to copy them blatantly. Look at this. I laughed out loud at this. You guys might not think this kind of thing is as funny as I do, but I knew they were going to do this, but I did not expect them to be this blatant about it. Is that thing on screen? Here you go. Look at that. So you can make that bigger. There you go. This was on CNN's YouTube channel last night. It was the most recent video that had been uploaded. Probably not the most recent anymore. But you usually see the thumbnails of the anchors sitting around the desk, the typical news type of, presentation there. But now you have Anderson Cooper sitting like he's doing a Joe Rogan podcast where he's got him and the other guy he's talking to sitting opposite of each other with the headphones on, the mic's in front of them, they got the script. I mean, they're literally just trying to rip off what podcasters who people trust are doing in hopes that people will say, hey, that guy's sitting at a desk with a microphone and headphones across from someone just like, I trust this asshole. Brainwash me. It's what's so funny about what the media is trying to do is they've got so much money, they've got so many resources, and they're going to do many, many things to try and make themselves appear to be as closely or appear to be as much like Joe Rogan or whoever else as they possibly can. Because they believe that is what will make people trust them. Except they're unwilling to do the only thing that matters, the only thing that will win back people's trust. They'll do everything else, but they won't do the one thing that will definitely win back people's trust, win back their influence, and win back their power, which is stop lying to people. They won't stop lying. They won't stop lying to people. That's all they have to do. They wouldn't even have to try and be podcasters if they just stopped lying to people all the time. Stop gaslighting people. Stop telling them that they're Nazis because of the side of the aisle that they're. Stop doing all those things that make people hate you, but they won't stop doing any of them. They'll only try and be a wolf in sheep's clothing and say, hey, look at me. I'm a trusted podcaster, in the hopes of winning back that trust, specifically so that they can continue lying to people, because that's what they are. They're psychopaths. The mainstream media as a whole, all of it, is a psychopath. And their goal has never been and will never be to tell the truth in full context so that people can decide for themselves. They're not reporting the news, okay? That's a facade. They're not bad journalists. They're good propagandists. They're good con artists. They're good liars. If you've ever been around a psychopathological liar, then you know that pathological liars never recognize that they were wrong about something and then apologize and make an effort to be more truthful in the future. That's not what they do. They know that they're lying. They know that they're wrong. That's how they get what they want, is they confidently gaslight, manipulate, and lie to people. So the media, which is a pathological lying psychopath, will continue doing just that. They'll just do it under the transformed presentation style of what Anderson Cooper has here. Podcasting. I'm so trusted. Yeah, of course, we'll have a longer conversation because you can trust me. I'm just like Joe Rogan. Anderson Cooper. It's crazy. I'm surprised that Anderson Cooper didn't just shave his head and pass around a joint. I mean, it might come to that. It would not surprise me to see some of these anchors doing stuff like that to make people go, oh, man, based. I didn't realize it. They got away from CNN. Based, bro. Like Cuomo has done. Cuomo's been one of the guys trying to do this thing, too. Tucker Carlson did it from the mainstream. What's up, Delta Fish? Not only is MSM mimicking news influencers, says Mitch, what's up? I didn't realize that was you. But also, the elites are reaching in and compromising existing podcasts. Yeah, no, that's That's a great point, Mitch. And that's how they try and spread their tentacles of this operation that they do. Compromise, send people in, send people in to those who are unsuspecting. And Joe Rogan shouldn't really be unsuspecting, but these psychological operations these spies, really, the good ones go undetected. I mean, that's the idea, is, you're going to fool people if you've reached that level. I remember years ago talking to Garland when he first started to get a lot of attention after the 2020 election from voter GA for the work that he had been doing for years, trying to protect the integrity of elections. But because of the 2020 race, and he was doing that work there, all of a sudden, all this attention was on him and with the evidence they were producing. And Lynn Wood, you guys remember Lynn Wood? The bombastic lawyer who was had a reputation, like a pretty good reputation, but was making kind of ridiculous claims that, you hear some claims that maybe you want them to be true, but it's like, I think seems a little bit like the fantasy of how people might want things to be. The Kraken. The Kraken thing was always a propaganda operation to sabotage the actual efforts going on. And so I did ask him at one point, do you guys have a vetting process now that you have all this attention and you're doing these legal challenges to make sure that nobody gets inside, your organization or works on one of these challenges with you that maybe tries to sabotage it? And he said that they did vet people and whatnot, but Lynn Wood got it. Like, Lynn Wood became a part of these legal challenges, and he absolutely sabotaged them, completely sabotaged them. He is what the media cites, and he is what got some of the challenges thrown out, if I recall correctly. I don't know why he did it. I don't know if he's paid to do it, but he was an agent, a saboteur. And like Mitch says, if you have the influence of Rogan, you are going to be the target. That's the thing about getting influence, man. Like, getting a lot of influence that is how those in power control the world. That's how they shape perception, pursue their agendas. Edward Bernays used to talk about this all the time. When somebody can move masses of people, you're going to try to get somebody in their ear. You're going to try to get somebody to pull their strings the way you want them to be pulled. And you can't just have some doofus agent walk in who's obviously trying to manipulate them. It needs to be somebody good at it, somebody smoking a little weed, somebody who sounds like they're playing along for a little while. The X-Files. I always go back to this. I love this scene where Deep Throat and Mulder just discovered that Deep Throat had been lying to him. And he asked Deep Throat, he said, those other things you told me were the truth, Deep Throat. Why did you, and Deep Throat's like, I had to misdirect you. You were getting too close to the truth. And Mulder says, well, why did you tell me the truth about the other stuff? And he says, well, Mr. Mulder, sometimes a lie is best told sandwiched between two truths. I don't think it was sandwiched. I'm thinking about truth sandwich, but that is so very true, because that's the whole trust model. You win them over by getting win. Like Snopes says this all the time. Snopes is like, fact check. Did Democrats stab 18 Asian babies in the face with, machetes on the front lawn of Joe Biden's house in Delaware? And it's like, no, untrue. And they say, here's the claim. And then they show a Twitter account that has no picture, has an egg there, 3 followers that said the most ridiculous thing possible that can then be conflated into being into people thinking it's the same as another thing that might actually be true. Not the Asian baby thing, but you know what I mean. So that people think that all of them have been debunked. But to do that, to lie, they have to get a bunch of them right. No, Bigfoot didn't blow Michelle Obama on Broadway. Fact check false. And everybody's like, yeah, obviously. They're telling the truth. I wonder how Joe Rogan does all that, What's up, Cobal? Thank you for that. Love you, brother. Propaganda Report. It's so hidden. It is hidden in the algorithms. Yeah, man, we've been pretty censored for a long time. We did used to get a lot of traction on YouTube years ago until the Las Vegas shooting. It plummeted. It was over after that. Like I would do videos 90,000, 100,000. It was growing. Did a couple videos exposing some weird stuff about Las Vegas shooting. Since then, it's crazy. It really is. And people who don't follow this kind of thing, they don't always believe you. I've told some of my progressive friends about stuff like this, and they just kind of look at you like, "Oh, he's crazy. He's a crazy conspiracy theorist." You know, now these same people are like, "I need to get out of the country. I need to flee because Trump's going to round me up and put me in a camp because I disagree with him." It's mental illness is what it is. So, yeah, great point, Mitch. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, so to me, this is just embarrassing for Anderson Cooper. Most of his viewers probably don't recognize it as embarrassing because they actually don't watch Rogan. And they might watch the Pod Bros, the Obama dudes. But the Obama dudes didn't have the influence during the election. Because they're annoying. They're going to try and be as close to conspiracy theorist podcast as they can without actually going as CNN and Axios put it the other day, without going full MAGA. They actually talked about how the shows that get traction and take their viewers away do a podcasting format, long form conversation, and they mix opinion with maybe some facts or not, which, like CNN doesn't do that. They said it was like a bad thing. And they talk about subjects that are a little bit off the mainstream, like a little conspiratorial. And they're like, the mainstream can do that without going full MAGA. They can humor these conspiracy theorying weirdos, Nazis. I mean, it's basically what they said. It's so insulting. It's so insulting to the people who eat it up, though. It's like I'm insulted for them. It doesn't insult me because I know it's BS, but I see my friend believe it. I'm like, man, I'm so insulted that they think you're that dumb, and yet here you are, thinking I'm the Nazi. Whatever. Nazi, Nazi, Nazi. Nazi, Nazi, Russia. It's ridiculous. All right. Get Anderson Cooper off of the freaking screen, okay? Quick reminder. Actually, let's do this real quick. So the CFR is doing the same thing. The CFR is this chick named Renee DeRista. Renee DeRista is positioned as a disinformation expert, the queen of dissecting and helping people understand disinformation. What she actually is she is a proven spreader of disinformation because she was part of what's called the Alabama Project, the only actually proven, because it was admitted, covered very briefly by the New York Times, and an apology was put out there. The only admitted, quote, Russian disinformation that was spread that we know actually affected an election in 2017 in Alabama during the Alabama special election. And it wasn't Russia. It was a company called New Knowledge that was conducting a Reid Hoffman, billionaire liberal funder, experiment to see if they could use Russian tactics to influence an election. And they did. They very successfully did. So much so that the CEO of that organization, very short-lived organization at the time, got all of his Facebook pages banned because they were pretending to be MAGA people and they were creating Russian bots just to see if it works. Reid Hoffman later apologized for it. That company, New Knowledge is what it was called, then changed their name to, I can't even remember what they changed their name to, but there's a lot of connections to like the British and the spy network over there. It's kind of crazy, actually, but this chick, Renee DeRista, staple of disinformation, was part of that operation. And she actually is the one who wrote the House Intel Committee's report on Russian disinformation in 2016, which was totally full of it. And she's the go-to source. Somebody who has been proven to spread disinformation and blame it on Russia, proven, is the top expert on the subject in America. And here she is. It's interesting what she says, though. You guys see that? Yeah, there it is. There she is. A short video. She's talking about what the media's been talking about. What happened on Election Day? Why did they get it so wrong? She's giving her explanation, which you can see the title of the video, how digital platforms are fueling extremism. Except, of course, Blue Sky and Threads.
Media doesn't just come from you seeing the information and forming an opinion about that. We've known that since the 1940s, right? Media comes from who do you talk about it with? Who is the community that you engage?
That's true. Edward Bernays was on top of this in his books.
With. And when you're engaging with people who are just like you, because they are all there, because you all have that extremely niche identity, you feel safer and it creates a more kind of pleasant experience of the world, but you don't necessarily have any tension or pushback or being challenged or hearing, actually, that is not true. This fact is inaccurate. That reporting is biased. You know, the sorts of ways that we might have discussed it.
It's just funny to hear them, the mainstream, which she's part of, talk about they don't get that pushback. These networks never have any pushback, ever, on anything that they say.
Even 4 years ago, when everybody was kind of fighting on Twitter, now you see people migrating not only to kind of distinct communities on one platform, but actually moving to other platforms entirely, where they're even more among the like-minded. And we've created an infrastructure where people can do that. And I think that decentralization, that moving away from everybody being on the same network to people being in very niche, distinct infrastructure, in addition to following niche, distinct influencers, is really going to be a profound
niche, distinct influencers. That's definitely something that's going to be coming into focus there, because those segmented groups of society, the decentralization of it, you can be a niche, distinct influencer with, I think, maybe 1,000 audience members, maybe even less than that, but very committed, will trust you above anything. And what I see them potentially attempting is not only trying to create the big, broadly popular type shows like Rogan, which they won't be able to do. They might be able to co-opt, but they won't be able to recreate. I see them also sending niche or creating niche influencers to multiple of them to try and influence these very committed, small, niche audiences that people have. You can sustain it. I can't remember what the exact number was, but you can have a successful business if you do it correctly with an audience that, you know, likes you, that trusts you, that feels that you're genuine. And if you market products that are useful to them and stuff like that, which that's not easy to do, but it doesn't have to be big. They just have to be loyal. And I could see them unleashing an army of vaping, pot smoking, whatever. They're going to try and find people who can mimic the most influential type of personality in these various segments of society. Fortunately for us, they're so out of touch that they probably won't be very good at it at first.
Distinct influencers.
Take that back a little bit.
In addition to following niche, distinct influencers, is really going to be a profound shift over the next 4 years, because we've just given people the option to effectively retreat into very homogenous spaces. And then I think that they're genuinely surprised when they see that people who are in other spaces have just gone a completely different direction. And I think that's part of the processing that's happening kind of in the aftermath of the election on Tuesday.
I agree with her about that. People are genuinely surprised about the outcome of the election because they were so inside of their bubble. I thought it was obvious what would happen if there was no rigging of the election. It was very obvious that Trump would win. But I've been in multiple states. I've been on the ground. I've been to probably 8 or 9 campaign events on both sides of the aisle. I've talked to people at a whole bunch of universities, liberal-leaning universities, mostly. I've talked to right-leaning people outside of Trump, whatever. Like, I obviously nobody can get a total feel of everybody in the country, but I felt like actually being on the ground and seeing what masses of people are doing, oftentimes people in environments that aren't even political by nature, like football games, college campuses, having a party, doing slip and slide after, like stuff like that. And it was so evident that Trump was going to win because the enthusiasm was everywhere. The most enthusiastic people were Black people, Hispanic people, Asian people, and young guys, some young chicks. Kamala, almost nobody liked Kamala. The people who liked Kamala shrugged their shoulders and were like, I guess Kamala. That's why I wasn't surprised. But what I was surprised about was the reaction of friends of mine on the day after the election. That was some of the craziest texts. We were in a text group that I'd ever seen in my life. Crazier things were said by them, and these are smart guys, that I heard any Trump supporter say after the 2020 election. And it was so disconnected from reality. It was very evident that the basis of their emotional reaction and disbelief was 100% because they got all of their information from a bias news, indivisible, they give their people news, MSNBC, CNN, and they had tested no other media with an open mind whatsoever. They had done no talking to actual people on the street, very little observing, only consuming media that told them what they wanted to be true. I mean, I was truly shocked by how the emotional, it was crazy. I mean, I almost felt like they were about to say, I'm leaving the country. Trump's coming after me just like he's coming after all the old 75-year-old white women who disagreed with him. Because that's what they told him. And that sounds crazy, but I'm being serious. I spoke to people while I was pretending to be a white dude for Harris who genuinely believe that Trump is going to round them up. 75-year-old white women with a folder of places to flee to. It's really wild. Quick reminder, and then I'm going to get back to that, because I have something interesting about that subject there too. If you like the show and you want to help us grow, help us continue to exist, share it, leave a 5-star, or leave a 5-star. You don't have to do any of these things I'm about to say. Do any of them if you like the show and it's helpful. 5-star review with a comment that warms my heart. Share it with somebody who might like it, who is outside the norm, okay with a little bit of weirdness. And I'm vulgar. I have no problem telling you I'm vulgar. Make sure they know that. Not all the time, but sometimes. People like to laugh, not take everything as seriously. Share it with people like that. Or if you're listening through a podcast app, let the ads play through. That helps us a lot because we don't get anything if the ads are skipped. Or you can fund the show through a one-time donation at paypal.me/Brad Binkley, or a monthly donation at patreon.com/propaganda report, where you will get the show ad-free. I take all the ads out for subscribers. And you'll also get a personalized RSS feed that you can pop into your podcast app. And then as soon as I upload the show to Patreon, it will upload to your podcast app ad-free. Also, be sure you're following me on X at the handle Freedom Act Radio, as well as the other socials, which you can find links to on my link tree, the link of which is in the bio underneath my handle on my X Twitter page. You guys know I hate doing that. I really hate advertising like that, but I have to do it from time to time. All right, now let's get back to some what I think is great news for some of those people I was just talking about who are afraid that they're going to be rounded up and put in internment camps, impregnated by Trump, and then forced to have a baby that, you know what they would like to do with. Like, these people who fear these things, I have great news for them. You might have an easier way to flee the country and flee the oppression that's coming before Trump even has a chance to measure you for your Handmaid's Tale outfit. Because here's what I learned the other day. can't remember the actress's name. I think she was on Desperate Housewives. Not that I've ever seen that show, but she moved to Mexico, this actress. Eva Longoria, I think is her name. I always confuse her with a baseball player. The little tiny Eva Longoria, very pretty. She moved her family to Mexico, and she said she did it because of Trump. And she said what made her very, very sad was that she has the ability to do that because she's wealthy. But people who also are going to be rounded up, obviously, who aren't wealthy like her, have nowhere to go, and they're going to have to accept their fate of having their wombs controlled by Trump in an internment camp. And that saddened her. Well, Eva, perk up, girl, because those people without as much money as you might have a way to get out of this country before Trump can get them. After all, because news broke today that there is a country that wants to help out all of the delusional, terrified Democrats, wants to help them leave the country. And that is the rural Italian town of, I don't know how to say this. It's spelled like this. Olloloia. Olivia. I don't know. But this town, the mayor has posted a notice to the website. Let me show you the website. No, hold on. I think this is hilarious. All right, there it is. No, dadgummit. Dadgummit. All right, so what this country or this town, this Italian town is offering is that they're offering these delusional people the opportunity to buy a home in this town for the price of $1. €1, which is slightly above $1, which like $1.05. $1.05. You got a house. All you got to do is somehow get there. Just get there. And then you can buy 4 or 5 houses, safe havens, for less than the cost of a price of eggs in America. I mean, what a deal. A carton of eggs is the equivalent of 5 houses in this Italian town. Unbelievable. People need to know about this so they can get out of here. There are caveats, though, I should say. There's a few caveats to this. This town's population has been declining for a century. It's been declining for a century, and it's dwindled down to 1,500, no, actually not 1,500, 1,100 people remaining. And there's like 1 or 2 births there a year. A couple babies a year. I don't know how many people die, but it must be more than the number of people that are being born, because if they don't get some of these Democrats there to hide from Trump, then there's going to be nobody left in this town. Also, these houses are all dilapidated because people haven't been in them, and they need a lot of work, and there's really almost nobody. There's hundreds and hundreds of empty houses there. You can buy the entire town with a stimulus check. One stimulus check, and you own this town, Democrats. It could be like the Democrats could create their own little utopia there, where they all just move to this Italian town. A bunch of purple-haired former baristas move there, and they all talk about how they hate Trump and how he's a Nazi, and they do it from this safe haven of this historic, dilapidated, nearly empty town. It's like they could create their own blue sky, like the physical version of blue sky or Threads is this Italian town. And the website, the mayor's hilarious. Let me tell you what the mayor says. But here's what the website says. It says, are you warned out, WORND, by global politics? I love that. Are you worn out by global politics, looking to embrace a more balanced lifestyle while securing new opportunities? It's time to start building your European escape in the stunning paradise of Sardinia. Nestled in the pristine nature, surrounded by incredible cuisine, and immersed in a community with ancient traditions, in the rare earth's blue zone Oalili is the perfect destination to reconnect, recharge, and embrace a new way of life. Discover an array of properties from the originators of the L House global phenomenon. Whether you're searching for a house to renovate or a move-in ready home, we'll guide you through the steps of your journey. Blah, blah, blah. Because, yeah, it's not just, you have three options here. You don't just have to do the dollar shitty house. You can also, they allow you to go and live there for free for a month if you are a digital nomad. So if you work online or you just do nothing but you tell people you work online, then you can go there and you can live for a month and explore the dilapidated, empty community that nobody wants to live in, except maybe people who are afraid of Trump now, and see if you like it. A third option is if you're a big spender, you got a little bit of money to burn, is you can actually buy move-in ready homes there. They have some move-in ready homes that will cost you around $100,000. So those are the three options. Now, it doesn't say anything about Trump here on this website, right? No, it doesn't. But I'll tell you who does say something about Trump, who does say that all of this is because of Trump, is the mayor of this town, who this dude, I think the mayors of this town have been part of the same family for, I guess, hundreds of years, because he has the same name as a bunch of dead guys who are also from this town. It's funny. His name is Mayor Francisco Carambu. Francisco Carambu. He told CNN during an interview that the website here that you're looking at was specifically created to attract American voters in the wake of the presidential elections. And he said that I love America. I love America. And he's convinced that Americans are the best people to help revive his community. I think he's a little misguided there. Maybe if he got conservatives who know how to sustain themselves or live off the land, they might be able to help rebuild this community. But I don't know that the pink-haired entitled baristas who are afraid of being put in a Handmaid's Tale outfit and never allowed to have an abortion again, I don't know that they're going to be actually doing a lot of that work that needs to be done to rebuild what's essentially just a destroyed ancient community. It probably is beautiful, but probably a lot of work going to be involved. He also says that we really just want and will focus on Americans above all. So he's an America first guy. This is an Italian American first town. And he says that we can't, of course, ban people from other countries to apply, but Americans will have a fast track procedure. So it's a DEI thing. It's like being a minority. If you're an American and everybody else gets pushed to the back because you satisfy the DEI requirements. He says, we're betting on them to help us revive this village. We're betting on you guys, America. They are our winning card. I think he's severely mistaken about this. I really don't know that he understands the type of people he's going to be attracting. Not physical laborers, okay? He continued to reinforce this whole idea to make sure, he kept saying things to make sure people watching said, no, this is for you, Democrats. This is for you, Americans. This is for you. He said, of course, we can't specifically mention the name of one U.S. president who just got elected. But we all know that he's the one from whom many Americans want to get away from and leave the country. I wonder why he can't say Trump's name. You know how Nancy Pelosi and Biden, leading up to the election, they would always say, oh, the previous guy, the other guy. You know, the name. Is he one of those guys? You can't say it. Is he worried? Is he worried that if he says Trump's name, I'm going to drop the mother of all bombs on this piece of shithole Italian town? He said my name. I'm going to kill all 1,100 people there, and the Democrats can come in. Why won't he say his name? I don't get it. And he wasn't done yet making this hard sell to the Dems. He then went on to say that we have specifically created this website now to meet the U.S. post-election relocation needs. The first edition of our digital nomad scheme, which launched last year, was already solely for you. I mean, this guy loves American. Why didn't he just move here? Why don't you just get everybody in that town, put them in the back of a truck, and then just drive all the way over here, open up a, Italian restaurant. I'm sure their food's better. I don't know what RFK Jr. will have to say about it, though. Finally, the last appeal that Mekalumbu makes is he says that desperate Democrats, if you can get here before February, if you can get to our town before February and buy your $1 house, you will get to experience Olinila's masked carnival, which features goat-like costumes and archaic rituals. You'll get your own little bohemian grove in a land of nowhere where Trump can't take your pussy from you. The housing market there, by the way, to give you an idea, over the past 6 years in that Italian town, the number of homes that have been purchased for the low, low price of $1 and then renovated is 10. So slow-moving market. Mitch says, did you see the 4-year around the world cruise to skip forward past? No, I didn't see that. There's 300,000 people on a cruise. They got on a cruise for 4 years, so they don't have to be here for trials. That is hilarious. Oh my gosh, they're gonna regret that so badly when they realize they can't come back for 4 years. I feel sorry for them. That's sad. I mean, that is sad. I did. See, that's why I warned people earlier, Cole, that I am vulgar. $300,000. Oh, so they get robbed in the process. I guess $300K is not bad for 4 years. Although, I mean, that's actually bad for a lot. It's hard for a lot of people. I mean, that's $300K for 4 years is actually very hard. I can't do that. I mean, that's crazy. To go on a cruise ship. To isolate yourself on a boat that'll probably make half the people on it sick most of the time. That's inescapable. You won't be able to touch grass for 4 years because you're on this boat you paid $300,000 for. And what do they think? Trump can't send a submarine out there and blow that thing out of the water? That doesn't protect them. A UAP will go right up their A if they're not careful. That is crazy, man. These people, there's so many other things that they could be doing with their thoughts and their time that would fulfill them, that would help them create things that would fulfill other people and solve other people's problems and make other people happy, contribute to the world, grow their wealth, grow their career, create friendships, appreciate current friendships and family members, pets, nature, so many things that are better to focus on and think about that could help them have quality lives worth living. And yet they've been brainwashed into having their thoughts consumed by Trump and a reality where he is going to target them and round them up because, as Kamala told them, they disagreed with him and they're American citizens and the military will come out. Like, they believe this thing that there's 0% chance of happening. There's a 0% chance that Trump is going to send the military to round up the 75-year-old white women activist who protested against him. 0% chance, yet there are 75-year-old white women, I know for a fact, who have plans to flee the country. Where are the grandchildren? Where are the people in this woman's life to say, hey, grandma, look, that was rhetoric. He's not really a Nazi. He has no reason to come after you, okay? You aren't at the top of his list It's elder abuse to allow someone to continue believing that, let alone propagating it into their heads. I mean, it's sick. It's brainwashing. I know it's easy to make fun of this. It is. And I make fun of it all the time. But none of us are immune to being brainwashed, to being manipulated. We all get fooled. We all get fooled. Those who get fooled the most are the ones who are confident that they can't be fooled. In fact, those are the ones that the propagandists target because the arrogance to believe that nobody can get you makes you the easiest to get. That's not me saying this. That is objectively and obviously true, and it is what the British propagandist during World War I, when they wrote back and forth letters to the agents they had placed all over the world and in America, Sir Gilbert Parker with Lord Northcliffe of the War Propaganda Bureau, laughing about how gullible the intellectuals who think nobody can get them are because they soak it all in. Humility is one of the best defenses to propaganda. Any of us, man, in the wrong circumstances could be throwing all our money away and sitting on that stupid boat for 4 years or driving our ass to the airport to leave everything we know and all our friends and family to go live in a piece of trash, 500, 300 square foot, dirty ass, rat infested house in this dilapidated Italian town. The wrong circumstances, any of us could find ourselves in that. I like to think that that wouldn't happen, but man, there's some very smart people I know who have fallen for this stuff, who think I'm a Nazi, who literally think that I've been captured by Christian white nationalists, and it's sad. They're sad for me. And I'm like, dude, you literally repeat. These people that I know, and they're friends of mine, they say arguments to me that literally are emailed to me by Indivisible as here is the script that you should argue to people when certain subjects come up. I'm like, dude, do you know where you got this? Did you get the email to the script, or has the psychological operation just been so effective around you that you just heard it so much that it became your own? Resonance. That's what propagandists seek to create within their targets. Resonance, which means that they propagate them enough and so effectively that the target believes and speaks outwardly the exact thing that the propagandist pre-planned for them to speak and believe before the whole operation began. It's not put into them, it comes from within them. That is a successful operation. And that's a hard one to realize. See, the avoidance of cognitive dissonance is just so detrimental. It's so hard. They use our logical fallacies and our brain's weaknesses against us. But they're also weak, and they're also weak. They're not a monolithic. They're pussies, okay? They're pussies that fight with each other. And this idea that there's this big monolithic group of elites who just laugh, and maybe there's people who laugh, whatever, and you don't like us, but they're humans. They fight amongst each other. And quite frankly, they're pussies. They're pussy. They're just pussies who want to demoralize you into thinking that there's nothing you can do against them because you believe they're far bigger and far more powerful and impenetrable than they actually are. So subversive, yeah. All right, I'm going to do a few more things here. Get to a couple more fun. So, the Matt Gaetz allegations, I'm not going to talk a lot about this, but the media is just covering this around the clock, obviously. And you probably saw what happened on The View. I'm going to play it anyway because I think what happened on The View is great. I don't know why that happened. I don't know why it was allowed. I think it's great, though, and more of this, because this is like the first time I've seen a little bit of accountability, even if it's trying to win my trust so they can lie to me. Still, this is accountability that I have not seen in 10 years. I'll get this up on screen. Do you guys see that? All right, so this is the post. This guy, Colin Rugg, I don't even know who this guy is, but he posted this story. The View host, Sonny Hostin, was forced to read a legal note just a few minutes after. This is my summation of it. After she made an assertion about Matt Gaetz that was not in evidence. And this is what the media does all the time. They have, for at least 10 years, I'm sure a lot longer, but they have been lying to the public through unquestioned assertions that they convince the people who watch them that they're true. For example, Trump told people to inject bleach. Obviously, no, he didn't. But the way that's spoken about to certain audiences as assertions that can't be questioned and that you're crazy if you do, there's so many people who still believe that. And that is it's really defamation, honestly. But the defamation laws, when it comes to public figures, it becomes challenging. But they know they're lying about that stuff. They just need you to trust them so that they can do it. So, next time around, they'll be telling you through their, podcasts where they're vaping and swearing a little more that Trump told people to inject bleach. They'll be saying the same things. And so the reason they do it is because nobody ever stops them. Nobody ever calls them out on their networks. Only the opposing networks that they just say are Nazi disinformation. Another example is the 51 Intel guys. The 51 Intel guys, by the way, the Russian laptop, Hunter Biden laptop thing, all of those guys apparently are very afraid Trump's going to get them. So you might see the Intel community, the current one from the U.S., they might just take over the entire town over there in Italy. Make it their home base of operation. Here is clips of this lady from The View. God, man, I know she's older, but Whoopi don't look good, dude. Here is what she was saying before she had to before she got a nudge from the lawyer of the show.
How could you nominate someone with allegations of child trafficking trafficking across state lines and having sex with a 17-year-old? My understanding, further on in the interview, they discussed the fact that once he finds out that she's 17, he stops having sex with her.
Sonny, you have a legal note.
I do have a legal note. Thank you, Whoopi. Matt Gaetz has long denied all allegations, calling the claims, quote, invented, and saying in a statement to ABC News that this false smear following a 3-year criminal investigation should be viewed with great skepticism. That DOJ investigation was closed with no charges being brought.
We'll be right back.
There I am talking with my mic muted. What I was saying while my mic was muted is there she is with that face there, which it says the face she pulls before she starts saying this is priceless. And she looks very upset about it. And she should be. She should be very upset that she was the one who had to be the first one, embarrassed sort of, to do this. Like look at her face there. She's got her tongue over her cheek. Like that looks like a chick who's about to go off on some dude. On somebody. I mean, she looks angry. What she should be angry about, though, is not the fact that they made her do it. She should be angry about the fact that every other media commentator who's done the exact same thing that she did here, making assertions about things that are not in evidence, and in this case, that have been investigated by the DOJ, and that investigation concluded that they couldn't verify the claims, and therefore, they did not recommend charging Gaetz with anything that all of the media is currently right now trying to make its audience believe is proven true. She should be upset that all of them haven't been forced to do something similar. I'm not a Matt Gaetz defender, okay? I've always thought he was a little weird looking. He looks like he's had a little too much Botox and like he should be one of the husbands in Whoville in the Grinch Stole Christmas movie. That's what he looks like to me. Looks like he needs a onesie leotard on, and he needs to be holding hands outside of his home in Whoville in a circle with everybody else the day after Christmas, despite the fact that everything that he had for his kids in his tree got stolen from him on Christmas Eve from the Grinch. He should be out there still singing and happy, inspiring the Grinch. That's what he looks. I'm not a defender of his. He seems creepy. Part of the reason why they can float stuff that doesn't have evidence and it can get so much traction is because you look at Matt Gaetz and it seems plausible. I buy it, right? That doesn't mean it's true, though. And they don't treat any of this the way that a court treats evidence and cases. Proven innocent until proven guilty is what is great about this country. It's supposed to be anyway. But when they don't like that, when the court system doesn't work for getting people that the establishment wants to get, then they simply do trial by media, which is a way of getting people without having to meet evidentiary standards while ignoring the fact that previous legal investigations did not turn up evidence that even comes close to being admissible in a court. And they do it in the form of House Committee Intel hearings, ethics hearings, January 6th committee. I mean, the January 6th committee was a sham. Everybody, well, not everybody knows that. The people who bought into it, they don't think it's a sham at all. It was produced by a television producer to be like a Netflix drama and be the most interesting and entertaining thing on television. That's not me saying that. That's actually what they said when they were doing that. And it was very loose with the truth because these committee hearings in Congress do not have evidentiary standards like the court system does, the justice system. They do not have an innocent until proven guilty standard that they must meet. They can just say shit, true or not, he said, she said, and if they say it convincingly enough, like everybody believes it's true, then it will become true in the minds of enough people. The Brett Kavanaugh thing. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's disgusting. I mean, it's wrong. Matt Gaetz might have done some of the stuff he's accused of. I don't know. I know that the evidence that they presented, there's no real good argument for it. I mean, there's a good argument that he hung out with shady people. But I'll tell you what I think was going on with that in a second. But even if someone is guilty of something that enough evidence hasn't yet been produced to convict them or even charge them, the right thing, not for that person, but for our country and for innocent people all over America who are wrongfully accused, the right thing to do is to not charge someone until those standards of evidence are met. The whole thing about it's better to let one guilty person walk free than execute 9 innocent ones. In my mind, that doesn't change. That's how this should always be treated, but that's not what these people care about. These people care about shaping perception and reality and weaponizing masses of people who believe a facade is the truth. And the reason they get away with it is because up until this moment on The View, I haven't seen one of these mainstream commentators have to walk back one of these unproven assertions ever. I mean, I don't know that I've ever seen that. I don't know who pushed her to do it. Lawyer of the show, I have no idea. I don't know if it's because they're worried about being sued or they're worried, because Trump did sue the media recently, or they're worried about what Matt Gaetz would do if he does end up being AG. I don't know what the deal is. But more of this, please. I want to see this happening every time. Sunny. She is cute. Don't get me wrong. Look, Mitch, don't get me wrong. I got this picture still up on screen because, sometimes a chick, when she's a little upset like that, she's got a little bit of, she's a little vigor because she's angry. She's a little hot right there. I agree with you. I'm not going to deny that. She could fill my head all night with unproven accusations about anybody with that kind of look on her face. And, okay, so here's another example of what I'm talking about. This publication is not as, they don't have as much reach as The View does. But look at this. So this is, after I read this from the New Republic, that's where this little snippet from this article is from. I made the New Republic one of the websites that pop up when I open my browser because I just thought it was so funny how ridiculous the way they wrote this article is. I don't even remember what the title of the article is, but this paragraph here from the New Republic, it says this. It says, from the New Republic, it says, young women, they were talking about how Trump won. They said, young women also veered in favor of the, quote, grab him by the pussy rapist. That's the first sentence of this paragraph. This is you go to their website and it looks nice, it looks professional, it looks well-funded. You've probably heard of the New Republic. I see it cited all the time. Drudge links to it. Not that Drudge links to things that are credible, but it has prominence is what I'm saying. So it has influence. It has an audience. And they're journalists. They present themselves as news reporting journalists. And yet here they are starting the first sentence in a paragraph by saying, young women also veered in favor of the, quote, grab them by the pussy rapist. The civil court with E. Jean Carroll literally found, like literally it says, he didn't rape her. It literally says that, and yet you will still hear commentators go, oh, well, what they said he did is rape. They literally said he didn't rape her. And anybody who's done an ounce of investigation into that claim knows that there's zero, it's so bogus. There's no evidence of the truth to it. She said we went up to, it's the most popular department store in New York. Always people everywhere. We went up, me and Trump did, to the second floor or whatever one day, and for some reason there was nobody there. The only time ever in the history of this department store's existence, there was nobody on the second floor, and there was nobody there working the changing room, which she even said, well, the changing room there, it's usually locked, so somebody has to let you in. But for some reason, we got up there. Not only was it a ghost town, kind of shockingly, but conveniently, somebody happened to have left one of the usually always locked doors in the changing room open. And you know what? Trump said, now's a good time for rape. And she also laughs with Anderson Cooper and talks about how sexy she thinks rape is. That doesn't mean she can't be raped. All I'm saying is she obviously isn't serious about the accusation against Trump. She just knew she could get a payday, and they literally changed the law in New York to give people who had decades-old claims a 1-year span to bring their charges specifically for her. And she won a $25 or whatever $1 million. I mean, she's robbing Trump. If she ever gets any of that money, it's robbery. It's crazy. And yet this article and every other network calls him a rapist based on this civil case, which actually found literally in the court document, he didn't rape her. Oh, but that means he did. Give me a break. Young women also veered in favor of the grab him by the pussy rapist, though less so than men. And then it says the Associated Press data found that women ages 18 to 29 shifted to the right by 14 percentage points, voting for Harris by a margin of 18%, down from 32. I don't have any of the other screen images, but the entire article has lines like that. I mean, that's crazy to me. That's so, like, that needs to get the View Sunny treatment. Like, that is where the lawyer needs to come in and say, hey, you can't say that stuff. Because that is what news should be. There should be accountability when these activists who are activist propagandists who are masquerading as truth-telling journalists, specifically to try and manipulate and brainwash older people and the youngest, most inexperienced people, everybody really. But they go specifically after the ones who are most vulnerable, which is even sicker. And they do it with stuff like this. And for so long, there's been nobody to do what happened to Sonny on The View. I hope we see more of that. I'm not optimistic we will, but I'm surprised we saw it even once. So great job, whoever did that. And Sonny, if you need to be, if you want to talk about it, give me a call, okay? You can come over and we can talk about how upset you are. I'm perfectly fine helping you out there. Maybe we can go to Italy, buy a few houses. Okay? I have the money. I'll buy you 10 houses in Italy. And you will never have to see Trump again. All right, I'm going to do one more thing to get out of here. What time are we looking at? All right. Skip that. And what do I want to do here? Cobalt says, great point. Evidentiary standards are not part of the legacy news media. No, absolutely not. Absolutely, like that's they know, like that's why they do all this pre-priming of narratives before things reach court or before things are rejected by the court, which we saw them doing that all the time with the indictments against Trump. Is this agenda-setting theory? This, what's it called? I can't remember the social psychology term of it, but the initial impression that people get about certain things has been found to be the most lasting and influential impression. So we see these news outlets constantly racing to set that initial impression in their audience's minds and attempt to solidify it, to make it strong, to create nodes in their brains. Like, the more they say it, the more they repeat it, the lies, the more unconscious it becomes to their audience. The first few times they see it, that first impression, which establishes that belief, the framing of how they think about it, creates the new node in your brain because you haven't thought about that thing before. So you have that new node created. And if nothing else happens there, then it'll either fade away. This is a little neuroscience I'm getting into here. I know a little bit about neuroscience. I read a couple neuroscience books. There was a while for a few years where I got really interested in reading research papers about neuroscience and the way thoughts and beliefs are formed in the brain. And the System 1, System 2 thinking. There's a book called, what's that book called? Thinking Fast and Slow. I think it's Daniel Coleman, who wrote this book that really deconstructs how the brain works and how buttons can be pushed. And it's a book that CIA agents are told to read, according to a couple CIA book course documents that I looked up a few times. And I see why, because it's a great book. Thinking Fast and Slow. Read it. It's very interesting. You have to use your cognitive effort to think and process and consider and decide about something until that node that is created in your brain has become so strong that it lights up, that it switches to I can't remember System 1 is the cognitive thinking, the one where you have to work really hard and exhaust your brain. And then System 2 is the automatic, almost unconscious. It's like a reflex, so you create new thought reflexes the same way, we breathe, reflect, we don't think about it. And that's the goal, is to create a new node, a new thought, a new belief in the minds of people who didn't previously have a way of thinking about or an opinion or even care about some subject, and then hammer it home over and over and over again through 24-hour news media coverage, through panel discussion after panel discussion, reiterating the point and the beliefs they want their audience to take away by every single commentator and every single show, just a new face on that show that's relatable to a different part of their audience. The white girl, the black face, the gay guy, whatever. They're all there to reach certain groups, and they all say the same things. And then you have all of the other networks repeating in coordination these same talking points and things specifically to take over the brains of their audience until their audience reflexively believes this thing. And they try and do this. You can see it. Notice this. You probably start to see this in the news if you think about like watch the news through this lens. It's crazy. But they aggressively do this before they try to do it before their audience can get any other conflicting information, before they can learn anything else about what is really going on in the broader context. They need to isolate them in their propaganda, swirl it around them until it's reflexive and they think it and believe it unconsciously. And then if they can do that, by the time other information that provides broader context, they're confronted with actual truths that show that what they believe is completely untrue, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Now, if they were exposed to those truths that showed that what they believed was not true before, right when the nodes are created, when they still have to consciously use their cognitive resources to think about it and consider it, then you break that chain. But that's why that media is surrounding people, every device, everywhere. That's what they're doing. It's very interesting. It really is. Like this book, Thinking Fast and Slow, the social science experiments, he goes through a lot of these social science experiments about the brain and how to influence what people do and how to get people to make decisions and believe things that clearly aren't true. I mean, that's part of some of the studies. See if we can get people to believe something that at first they might even know it's not true, but through the environment and the pressures and the information pumping in, that you can get them to state something that is so obviously not true. And it's wild. They go on believing it and all this bullshit. It's crazy. Good book, but also like, if the entire intel community has experience, they don't because they're not great at it. But they have 100 years. They have 100 years head start on us in studying the stuff at the Tavistock Institute. I think more people over the past 10 years have become more aware of this stuff. Have become more aware of propaganda and surface level propaganda and stuff, and even psyops. In fact, I think some people have become so aware of it, of the surface level, because the media tells you this. They say, here are the basic propaganda things, and here's how you protect yourself. You believe the New York Times. You never analyze the content. I think that some people, probably more left-leaning, maybe that's my bias, have gotten so confident in their ability to recognize the surface level propaganda tactics that they're completely blind to the deeper level of stuff going on. And there's always deeper level, long game plan shit. It's just a constant. It's not. I think it's exciting and interesting, to like go through it. It's not. It's like they're pussies and skeptical. Just be skeptical. Be cool. Be nice to people, and you beat them. That's how you beat them, because they want you to hate people. They want you to fight. They want you to not think. So here's what you do: you think even when you feel like you know. Still think. Still criticize yourself harder than you would criticize your opponent. Try and disprove your most strongly held beliefs about things. That's what the CIA does. The CIA trains their agents to make sure they're not being affected by confirmation bias and their own inherent biases by training them to, every time they present an argument, this is what you learn in law school also, try like hell to defeat your own argument. The worst case scenario is you discover that you were wrong. Best case scenario is that you actually develop a pretty badass argument that can't be beaten. And using this strategy when I was in law school, a long time ago, I won awards for advocacy writing, most persuasive arguments, because the goal of the class was, here's your defendant. Here's the set of circumstances. Your job is to write the best brief you can in defense of the outcome your client wants in this scenario. And so I was like, here's the argument. I'm gonna beat the shit out of my own argument. And by doing that, it led me to statutes. It led me to case law that had never before been linked to that specific topic. But I have a combination. I do comedy and shit, so I also wrote a bunch of stuff in law school where people were like, so you think the people in the boat are just going to eat each other? That's a little flippant. I'm like, I know, but like, I was just trying to be fun. Like that. So I had shit like that. My teachers tell me that stuff in law school too. But I used my like creativity. How can I link this shit nobody's ever linked to this argument that nobody will be able to beat because nobody has considered that this statute and this case law might be relevant here? And that's what I did. And these Supreme Court these district court justices, what they told us, they said nobody's ever done this before. And the point of that is I only did it because I used the CIA training strategy and the law school training strategy of you don't fucking just try and prove your argument. You try and disprove your argument better than anybody who's coming after you will. Then they don't have a chance. It's very hard to do. It was easy to do in that situation because I didn't have a stake and I didn't care. I had no emotional connection to it. It was a made-up scenario in class. This is much harder in real scenarios where people want to believe certain things, where their identity is tied to believing certain things, where if they found out certain things that they've believed so strongly aren't true, it could actually shatter what they have always believed about themselves in reality. So there's not incentive for people to go out and seek information that disproves the thing that they want to believe very, very badly. And yet, doing this, while painful, cognitive dissonance literally is painful. Aristotle said learning is painful. Cognitive dissonance, when you run away from it, you run to the confirmation bias and no new nodes are created. When you recognize that your reality isn't what you thought it was, and you say, okay, I accept it and I'm going to explore more. I'm going to open my mind to it. That's when the cognitive dissonance is broken and the new node is created. And it's painful. It's hurts your pride. Makes you feel dumb. We're all dumb, man. We're all dumb. We're all smart. We're all brilliant. We're all unique. We're all dumb. We're all unaware. We're all oblivious. We're all astutely aware. We're all everything. We're all great. We're all mean sometimes. We're not all everything. Some people are actually, psychopaths that are a lot worse. But humans are flawed. We're all flawed. The way the media talks to people and talks about politicians and public figures that they want us to idolize and trust completely for our well-being. They talk about them in a way that's black and white, that ignores the fact that they're freaking human just like us. And they compel masses of people to pretend that they don't have any flaws and judge everybody based on every little thing that happens they can find in their life that can brand them as the most evil, worst person ever. Now, yeah, should we be scrutinizing people that are public figures? Absolutely. Absolutely. But the second we find out that someone isn't Jesus Christ, and they have in fact sinned, that's not the moment we should throw them into the fire, okay? That's the moment we realize they're just like us. The media says these flawed people, they're very, very evil when you find something like that. We're very, very evil, very obviously. I can't stand them, man. All right, I'm ending on this. I'll talk more about the Gates thing tomorrow. It's just, look, I don't care if Gates ends up being the AG, but if they're going to be challenging the media on their narratives and making them have to take a step back and not be so bombastic and sensational and lie, then I'm all for it, okay? All right, here's one a little bit lighter heart. So I've been a little bit intense this morning. Thinking fast and slow. Yeah, that's it. Written by the Nobel Prize. I remember when I used to hear a Nobel Prize winner or a Pulitzer Prize winner, and I used to go, oh man, wow, what a smart person. Now I hear that, I'm like, oh man, wow, what a compromised elitist. Which leads me to this next story. Get rid of this. Get rid of these. So, is that on screen? Yeah. Denzel Washington did this interview. He's in Gladiator 2. Yeah, there's a Gladiator 2. I don't know when it comes out. I don't care. I'm not going to watch it. How do you make Gladiator 2? Cash grab. The only movies that make money are cash grabs that are sequels to movies that came out 25 years ago or reboots of them with, an all-gay trans people of color cast. Let's do the Wonder Years, but let's make them all gay and black. It'll still be the Wonder Years. They're just all gay and black. And Wendy Cooper has a big black penis, and Kevin has a slightly smaller black pea. It's the Wonder Years. Hopefully that's going away, but apparently not with Gladiator 2 here. Because Denzel, this is the weirdest story. During an interview talking about his role in Gladiator 2, which I don't know what his role is, he's an Oscar hopeful. They talked about that, though, right? So to me, I think that maybe it's part of this. He revealed during this interview that during the filming of Gladiator 2, that, quote, he actually kissed a man in the film, but that they took it out and that they cut it, and that he thinks that they got chicken. They were scared. They were scared to show Denzel Washington to the world kissing a dude. But he wasn't scared. He kissed the dude. Like, he's proud of it. These bitches are scared, which is interesting. It's very interesting. It's funny if this is true and he did kiss a guy during the filming of it and they ended up cutting that scene and it was on the cutting room floor, because I've been in a couple of television commercial things where I have had intimate scenes where I've made out with the female, the woman in the scene with me. One in particular is the Roll Tide Alabama commercial from years ago. It was very popular, and I'd auditioned for this thing like 3 times to make sure I could say Roll Tide in the right way to convey the message. And I guess to show that I could make out with this person. They pair people together. They want to make sure people have chemistry. They want to make sure people look like a couple that's believable. Well, they used to anyway. They don't do that anymore. But my part in this commercial, which is like a minute-long commercial, about 3 or 4 seconds, maybe not even that long. And what I'm doing the entire time is making out with the chick in the commercial with me in a truck, and then a light flips on in the house in the background. So in my head, it's like, oh my gosh, her dad. And we stop kissing, and I go, Roll Tide, like, get out of my car. That's why I won that part, by the way, is because everybody else just did Roll Tide. My intent during the audition the whole time was, you're telling me your dad's there. My Roll Tide is, all right, I don't want to get shot, get out of the car, right? So for 3 or 4 second part in this commercial, we were filming for 3 hours. I was in a truck for 3 hours making out with this girl the entire time, surrounded by about 50 production crew people, the director, and the chick's mom, who for some reason was on set outside the car window telling us great job every time they said cut. Which, the mom's like, great job. I'm like, thanks. The point is, if Denzel Washington really was making out with dudes in this movie and they put it on the cutting room floor, he didn't just do it once. He was probably doing it for 3 or 4 hours, maybe multiple days, and they didn't even include it. So he just spent a bunch of time making out with a guy for no reason. He's just making out with a dude. I guess I would be pissed too if I were Denzel. If I was like, all right, I'm going to make out with a dude in this movie. I'm going to do it. We're going to spend 4 hours with me making out with this dude for this movie because you're paying me millions. And then they go, Denzel, you know what? We cut the gay stuff. I'd be mad too. Dude, so I just kissed a dude, he's probably thinking. Or maybe he's excited. I don't know. But did it even happen? Did it even happen is the question. Actually, another quote from Denzel. He goes, I kissed a guy full on the lips, and I guess they weren't ready for that yet. I killed him about 5 minutes later. It's Gladiator. It's the kiss of death. Okay. So then, after this, the director of the movie, Ridley Scott, was being interviewed. And the person interviewing him asked him, he said, so what about the kiss scene that you guys left on the cutting room floor, something like that? And Ridley Scott was confused. He was like, what do you mean the scene with whoever it was? I can't remember the character it was. Let me see what he said here. I don't know. Ridley Scott was like, what are you talking about? I don't, are you talking about this? And the reporter clarified. And he said, Denzel said that he was kissing this other character during the filming and that you guys were too chicken and weren't ready for it. And so you left it on the cutting room floor. And Ridley Scott's response was, he said that didn't, he said, no, he said, that's bullshit. He said, that's bullshit. No. And then off camera behind Ridley Scott, you could hear someone saying, we even went back and looked at the film footage and there was never a gay kiss. That never happened. Isn't that weird? I sound like Kamala Harris and Tim Walsh. Isn't that just weird? You have the director and the people with access to all the footage saying that the gay kiss Denzel Washington claims they were too chicken to put in the final cut that he promises happened, that he was involved in. They say it didn't happen. What's going on here? Who's telling the truth? And if Denzel is not accurate, why would Denzel be going around telling people that he made out with a dude in a movie that he never actually made out with in the movie? Did he get confused? You could be on sets for long periods of time, 18 hours. You go to your trailer, everything can just kind of clump together. What happened in my trailer? Was that something I did in the movie? Or maybe he was just making out with extras, he got a bunch of dudes who were extras, took him back to his trailer, and he's making out with them, and he just forgot that wasn't the movie. I don't know. I mean, that's a legit possibility, that he was making out with a dude somewhere else that was not during this film, but maybe offset or something that made him think it was, and that he just misremembered the situation. Or maybe, because he is a Oscar hopeful, maybe he was thinking, nobody can win an Oscar anymore without doing a little bit of gay shit. So he wanted to float it out there that he did some gay shit. He did the work. And so that the Oscar people should know that even though they don't see it, he gayed it up a little during the movie. He did what was necessary to get that Oscar. I don't know what the answer to that is. And then what's even more interesting is a couple of the other male actors in the movie, Paul Mescal. He also revealed that during the filming of the movie, he and Pedro Pascal, that the two of them, in a scene they were filming, they just improvised a dude-on-dude kiss. Wasn't even in the script. Wasn't even in the script. And the two of them, just in the moment, started sucking face. Who improvises a dude kiss in a film that's not in the script? Cut. Guys, that was great. Let's do it again. We don't need the kiss. We don't need the kiss. There's no kiss. Action. Cut. Guys, I said no kiss. No more improvising. The kiss isn't in the script. Stick to the script. Action. Guys, cut. No more gay shit, okay? No, you're not getting an Oscar. We're not including it. No more kissing. For all we know, the scene between Pascal and Pedro could have been a battle scene in the middle of the arena. They're going at each other, maybe about to cut each other's head off, got knives on each other. Then they improvise. You know what? I felt it in the moment. I know we're supposed to brutally murder each other here, but it just felt right. And we both dropped our swords, shoved our tongues in each other's mouths, and rolled around on the dirt while the arena full of extras watched on perplexed. If that's actually what happened, I wouldn't mind seeing that for the sake of humor. But what's great about this improvised kiss is that they cut this also. This was not included in the movie. Cut it right out. I don't think there's a lot of directors who are producing a film and they have a script that doesn't have a script that's not like an LGBTQ film, like a director who's not known for this. A director just trying to do an action movie. I don't think there's too many of them who are going to be like, no, I really liked that gay improvised off-script part that you did. I don't know that needs to be there at least in their minds, and especially multiple. Apparently, all the dudes in this movie were kissing, or maybe they weren't. I don't know. All right. You suggest I become aware with a guest on THC. You're talking about the higher side chats. Yeah, I like the higher side chats. Greg was on the show a few years back. His show's great. He does a lot of good work. And you've learned over time to question the long-held beliefs. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to. It's really hard to question our long-held beliefs. It truly is. Finality. So you guys have seen all the Trump dancing. The NFL, the soccer leagues, the boxers, they're all doing the Trump dance. They're all celebrating sacks and touchdowns and goals and knockouts with the Trump YMCA dance. Unfortunately, because it happened a lot in the NFL probably you're going to see it the most. The NFL has come out and they have made their position known on the Trump dance. The use of the Trump dance during player celebrations. And they said that they got no issue with it. They're okay with it. Wow. Even though the fact that whether or not they were okay with it only came up because there are people who want to say that it shouldn't be allowed because it's dangerous and offensive. I mean, the Trump dance is the new swastika. And it shouldn't be shown or allowed. The spokesperson for the NFL said there's no issue with a celebratory dance such as what took place this past Sunday or the previous weeks with the 49ers. It's up to the networks to cover these dances the way they see fit. It's your choice, networks. So the NFL allows players to celebrate as long as it's not offensive. How could this dance possibly be offensive unless it's Hitler doing it, you know? And so one of the networks, apparently, CBS, when a Raiders player started doing the Trump dance after a sack or something, the camera quickly jerked away. Can you imagine? You're the camera guy and you see that and your instinct is to go, no, America can't see this. No, and he just jerks away. Like there could be somebody sitting in a tunnel in the arena playing with them, exposing their private parts. A pervert exposing themselves, trying to expose themselves to the camera. And it's like this guy, he sees somebody doing the Trump dance and he goes, no. And he turns the camera quickly over to the guy exposing his privates because that is less offensive and dangerous for people to see. I tell some of these people, I'm exaggerating obviously, but what kind of instincts do you have as a person to do that? To just, like, oh my God, I better turn. It's just crazy to me. Maybe they think they'll get fired. I was at the Georgia Tech Notre Dame game, and my friend, he's a huge Trump supporter, he was there with his kids and his wife, and they came up to sit where we were by the end of the game because Tech's getting blown out. And it was at the Falcon Stadium, which is way too big for a Tech game. They just did it because Notre Dame, and it was empty at this point because it's a blowout, and you could hear people on the field. It was so empty. And so at that moment, my friend's wife pulls out a Trump flag and gets her and her kids, they stand up and they're holding it. And so my other friends from high school were there, and I could see them because one of them definitely doesn't like Trump. He's trying to be like, oh, my God, I hope the camera doesn't pan over. I hope the camera doesn't pan over. And my other friend wants the camera badly to pan over, thinking that now's the time to do it because there's nothing else going on in this game or people even here. And I'm like, they're not going to pan over. They're not. I wish they would show it too. I was hoping they would, but I'm like, they're not going to show it. The camera people are too afraid. And they didn't. They wouldn't do it. They stood up for like the last 30 minutes of the game holding this. And the camera never went over to. I really wanted to show up. I wanted them to show it on the big board just to see how the people in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium reacted. I was genuinely curious. I didn't know if they would boo or if they would celebrate or if it'd be a pretty even mix. It'd probably be a mix. I think the expectation would be that it would be booze, but I bet it would be a mix based on my other experience talking to people down in Atlanta. So the NFL is okay with the dance. I can tell you who definitely is not okay with the dance or would not be okay with the dance, and that's the NBA. The NBA would never tolerate the dance. They'd probably fine anyone who did it $100,000 for doing it because for some reason the NBA continues to be, along with the WNBA, the wokest trash that we have currently. I love basketball, but man, fining LaMelo Ball $100,000 for saying no homo in a post-game interview. Give me a break. That is simply a white dude in Adam Silver who has more power than black dude LaMelo Ball robbing that black dude blind for doing something, saying something that literally offended 0 people. It's crazy. And LaMelo Ball then being forced to apologize publicly for making them do that to him. You need to apologize for making us steal $100,000 from you. Screw that, dude. That's it. I got to get out of here. I got some more stuff. I'll be back later tonight, 8:30 p.m. Ian will be joining us. Maybe we'll have more guests as well. Thank you guys for hanging out in the chats. It was a pleasant surprise to see you guys in the middle of the night show. And Instagram, I don't know if this is still live on Instagram or not. Looks like it is. I didn't think it was supposed to be longer than an hour. Appears to be people here on Instagram. If there is a chat here, I don't know how it works, but I do see all you guys in here. Thank you for checking out the show. If this is working on Facebook, and if it went to the Propaganda Report Facebook page on Facebook so that people who have joined that page see it, and not my page, not my Johnny Blastoff page where all of my liberal friends would be watching, if that's the case, hearing me talk about them. So I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see if I lose some friends after this, if it even worked on Facebook. Thank you guys for watching is the point. Propagandafight.com. We'll do it again later. Have a fantastic rest of your morning. Peace.